Retro video games are a waste of everyone's time and money.
According to an article.
According to a reader feature from Game Central in metro.co.uk. So a lot of people sent us this article to check out, and it clearly uses a very clickbaity title. And while I don't agree with everything in here, I think he's throwing out the baby with the bathwater a little too much. He makes some really good points. And basically...
He or they? We don't know who wrote this.
Yeah, good
Do
point.
We? There's no name on this.
I thought there was. Okay, yeah, they. Yeah, there is no name. Okay, so they, Game Central, they talk about how they don't like people who... first they start off by saying they don't think retro games are that great. We don't know the age of this person. I've found that is, certainly a opinion that some younger people hold who did not grow up with it. And even some older people who did grow up with them. Games sometimes don't age well. And they talk about how, and it's especially true of some of the early PlayStation games, what we allowed as passable graphics back then to try new things really don't look, fantastic today. They realize that there's a lot of nostalgia associated with it. And, that they don't understand the focus necessarily on backwards compatibility. So they say that they understand people who would like to buy these games every once in a while or whatever, who collect them. That's really not their problem. When they get to the crux of their argument, what they're saying is that focus on retro titles too often, especially in the modern day,
for modern systems,
especially in the modern day, pull away from new things happening. And a couple examples they use are Microsoft's excessive focus on backwards compatibility during the Xbox One era, because there really was nothing new coming out. So they were using it as a fallback to get people excited. But as much as I like the backwards compatibility options on stuff like the Xbox, I can tell you personally from working in the game store, not that many people used it. It was a nice feather in Microsoft's cap to be able to say they had it, but ideally, was it really used as much as they think they would have hoped? I don't know.
Well, but that was a big selling point on the new Xboxes, right?
Well, yes, but I feel like that's something that people lunged at and they were like, yeah, backward, and then didn't really do a whole lot with, because they realized that they could be playing...
There was no games coming out.
Sure. But that was, I think his thing was they focused too much on that instead of focusing on something new. I agree that I think the focus on the backwards compatibility was because of the lack of something new. I don't think the focus on backwards compatibility, I don't think that prevented something new from coming out.
No, but when you look at from a business perspective, which I like to do, you're talking about backwards compatibility. It's like, okay, we put some R&D into this feature, not a huge amount, versus having potentially hundreds of titles available for people to play with the subscription maybe tied to it. That's a big selling point, and we're going to make a lot of money with that with minimal effort. And from that perspective, I agree with the authors. Like, you are kind of, I wouldn't say you're not stifling innovation. You can do two different things at once. You can walk and chew gum. But if that's a main feature of your newest console,
right.
Why is that a feature? Like, I kind of agree with that point. Like, why is that a feature? Obviously, you have, you want to do preservation and things like that, but you still have these old consoles. I mean, you can still play most of these games. It is kind of strange to lean on that. I do agree. Let me just talk about what was this big about this. A lot of it's nostalgia. Yeah, I realize that, but this is what they say. But I remember when Microsoft started pushing backwards compatibility, and I was excited. I was excited to put in some kind of my old OG Xbox discs and see how they looked, and I wish I had it because it killed my sense of nostalgia over them. In short, they looked terrible, and in general, they played worse even with enhancements. To you, they look terrible. To a lot of people, they look fine. I'm not saying that not everyone, some people want their upgraded modern HD Banjo game, or they want their upgraded not Banjo, fucking Crash Bandicoot. They want their updated version. To some people, though, they're fine playing it how they played it when they were 10 years old, right, in the mid to late 90s. They're fine with that.
So they do go on to make two more points, though, that I think are better thought out, and I agree with mostly. The first is they talk a lot about how the focus on these older games leads to far more remakes and remakes far quicker than we need to see them, and more remakes than we really need of certain games, because they focus on the old games. They focus on past success far too much that they don't. And this is very true. And this is what people said about Naughty Dog when Naughty Dog announced The Last of Us remaster. Okay, it's a good game, but we just got, this is a remake. We just got a remaster that was perfectly fine on the PlayStation 4. Mm-hmm. And the original game came out on the PlayStation 3, and not even
10 years ago,
and not even at the beginning of it, like a good chunk of the way in.
It's a 10-year-old game.
So that's a great point. This focus on the past and just milking the same successes over and over again does lead to burnout. It is part of the reason why I don't care about AAA games, and it does literally take staff away from making something new and taking a risk.
That stifles innovation. That stifles creativity. That's going back to the well. Imagine if we re-released. It's a problem in the movie industry of remakes to a lesser degree, but sequels, sequelitis.
Yes, sequelitis.
We'll just keep putting out sequels because we don't want to take a risk with a new property. But this has happened now with 3 or 4 big franchises. You got the Halo remakes. You have Mass Effect remasters. You have this Last of Us. Where like, do we really want to get into this space where on every new console we're going to be remaking each game subsequently? Like, is that really what we're going to get to? Are we going to start seeing? I mean, it's failed as well. I mean, thankfully we're not seeing some of these older like the Grand Theft Auto 3 remake or HD was fucking disastrous. I don't think they're going to try another one of those.
No, they just said they're remaking Red Dead Redemption.
Great.
Yeah, man.
Great.
It's never going to stop, bud. Never, ever.
What do I know? But yes, that does keep teams away. They're really going to remake Red Dead Redemption?
I'm pretty sure that was announced like a week ago because everyone was like, "Oh, you did a great job."
Is that game 10 years old?
The first one? That was PlayStation 2. So yes, that game's older than 10 years.
Well, Red Dead Revolver.
I'm sorry, Red Dead Redemption. You're right.
Yeah, Red Dead is the sequel technically. It's like the Soul Calibur to the.
No, you're
Soul's
right.
Edge.
You're right.
It's 2010. It's 12 years. Excuse me, but I don't know. Wow.
Maybe I was wrong.
What?
Maybe
What happened?
I was wrong.
They're not doing a remake?
New remake leak likely false.
Okay, good. Because I did see about putting more resources into GTA 6 is why they're pulling off of the online.
Right.
So I guess the point is this. I don't think it's healthy for the industry to remake these games, like you said, because you're going to have all these people working on these remakes. And then why can't we have new games?
Well, and people are going to get tired of it too. No expression, no creativity, no feeling like you're working on something new or groundbreaking.
And diminishing returns on top.
Yeah.
You just said this would be the second Last of Us remake or remaster in 10 years?
They did one on PS4, and now they're doing the remake on PS5.
Well, this is going to be up to the consumers to decide the fate. The consumers got to roundly say, no, this is unacceptable. I have 2 versions of this already. I don't want this 3rd version.
Right.
And that's it. And then they'll stop doing it. I mean,
and it's all part of this race for photorealism, too, which I fucking hate.
Yeah.
I play video games to go to fantasy worlds. I don't play video games to, like, every once in a while, sure, there's games that benefit from it. But for the majority, I'd rather have stylized art and interesting takes.
Yeah. You know what everyone's talking about today? Stray.
Right, which I'm going to buy as soon as I get home.
I just think it's funny, just as an aside, that like, yeah, I'd heard about this game, but now like everyone's talking about this game this day.
In
like
2017, they released a very short 30-second clip, and I've been waiting for it since.
I just think it's funny because it's like, it's nice to see a game that isn't like just a big shooter or zombie fucking game.
No, absolutely.
And everyone's talking about it, and it's not like this isn't a game worked on by 1,000 people, right? This is it's a double A game.
I think it's a pretty small team.
Double A at most, probably.
Yeah.
And everyone's talking about it, and it's an original game.
Yep.
Look at that. It's an original game.
Yeah.
It's getting good reviews. People, it's a cat game, so come on. Single player.
Yes.
As well.
The
developer doesn't even have a Wikipedia page, Blue 12 Studio. I was trying to look up the developer's history. They don't have a Wikipedia page. So.
Nice.
Small team from the south of France made up of cats and a handful of humans. There you go. This is what we want to see.
Yes.
Innovation. Untitled Goose Game. You want stuff like that takes risks, different art styles, different game types, and this is how you expand the art form, and this is what's better overall for the industry. Not remakes every 4 years. Go back and play the old one if you can. Go upscale it on your PC if you want. That's my opinion with that.
Another small point that he makes that I do think is pretty decent is he talks about the Starfield trailer and how people finally saw some gameplay and people were let down that it looks like Skyrim. And Bethesda in particular has this habit of not doing a whole lot between. They found a successful formula and they keep churning it out. And he talks about how obsession with these old games, obsession with something like Skyrim, which got 50 gazillion ports, has led companies to just making a new Skyrim, but with a different skin instead of progressing and working on a better system. The same thing happened with Final Fantasies in the middle years. They were good games, but people got sick of seeing the same battle system over and over again. People don't want to play the same system over and over again, and it's playing it too cautiously because people like the old stuff.
I don't know. I'm less bullish on that point, just because once you establish a structure to your game and genre. I mean, what are you saying? They shouldn't have done Red Dead because it's basically GTA in the Wild West? I mean, like...
No, but it looks different. The stories are different. There's different mechanics. I feel like with something like
So you don't think Starfield's going to have somewhat different mechanics going to space and
I'm sure it does,
like that?
But I feel like with and I don't play Red Dead and GTA precisely because they are similar to each other and I don't like open world games.
Okay.
And I think with something like Starfield, I think that's fine with Elder Scrolls 6 or whatever one is coming. You keep it that way, but with a new series, I think it's lazy to just use the same mechanics.
I don't know. At some point, the mechanics have to be similar to each other. You can say that about sports games. It's going to be the same mechanics, and you love the MLB games. The mechanics are going to be drastically different year to year, right?
Well, I mean, I play some of them.
I haven't
played it in a long time.
But you see my point, though. Is it going to be the same pitch?
But it's the same series, which is what I said. If you're doing a different series, it should feel like a different game.
But how much different can you do the mechanics of an open world game at this point between all of them? I mean, you get items, you have inventory, you talk to people.
All right, then we'll just let everything stagnate forever.
I'm just saying, like, what did you want them to do different in Breath of the Wild because that's similar.
Breath of the Wild was very different than previous Zeldas.
But you're saying...
I mean, it's also different than most open world games. They all have their different feeling. What I'm saying is this looks like it's going to feel just like Skyrim.
I think... Okay. All right. I mean... All right.
I'm not saying that everything has to change wildly each time, but it would be nice if different series felt like different games.
I mean, once you establish what works, I think it's kind of hard to reinvent the wheel with like a giant... Was it 6 games in that Elder Scrolls series? It's 6? They're doing the 6 or 7.
I'm saying, again, you don't have to reinvent that. Starfield is not an Elder Scrolls game. Make it feel different.
Okay, we'll see when it comes out. I think being in space and shooting up things and little space buggies and...
I'm going to get it, and I hope it's different, but I mean, it looks like they're leaning on past successes.
I mean, I said it before, it's my dream game.
Sure. Because
it didn't happen with Star Citizen. That never came fully developed. It's like a half-baked game still. That's my dream game. These are the games I'm afraid to play. I still have to play Red Dead appeals to me more than regular GTA. I love like the Wild West theme and being on horses and
it appeals to me more. But
having trains and shit. I love that versus just fly around in a helicopter and crash into things. I mean that's fun too. I'm not going to deny it. I love the GTA games. But all right, anything else in this article here? It's a good. It's not that long of an article, which is nice. It's really clickbaity. And yeah, we kind of agree on some of the points. We disagree on others.